So Keir Starmer is set to meet the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen as part of what he says is a reset of the UK's relations with the European Union. So Keir said last week that the government will increase the UK's cooperation on defence and security and also illegal immigration. But am I being cynical when I ask whether overturning Brexit and rejoining the European Union might be on the agenda? Well, joining now is Dr. Andrew Lilico, who's the Chief Executive Director and Principal of European Economics. Welcome to the show, Andrew. So Keir Starmer has said that it's not on the plan to have a second referendum to reverse Brexit, but could something a bit more underhand be going on? Backroom deals, political alignments, the kind of things that we'll have no say in. We won't get a vote. It would just happen. This could be death by 1,000 treaties.
I don't think there's any appetite on the Labour side, certainly for any formal rejoining of the European Union or single market or customs union. In fact, if anything, the situation is quite the reverse. We had David Lammy going off to India this week trying to negotiate a free trade agreement. There was talk of Rachel Reeves being optimistic that whoever the new president is in the United States, she'd seek to have a US-UK trade agreement. None of those things would be possible whilst we were in the EU. Meanwhile, we're doing other kinds of measures that would be inconsistent with EU membership. So, for example, a week or two ago, we were the first country in Europe to legalise the production of lab-grown meat. So that kind of thing and other kinds of new technologies coming in, we will be in a position to make use of where the EU is behind on its regulatory agenda. So I don't think there's any real appetite for that. What they're interested in, I think, is seeking to have some kind of migration agreement. They're looking at having some sort of veterinary agreement to ease things on the border with Northern Ireland and probably to do something on security and defence. It's in Starmer's interest to talk this up as if this was some kind of big deal. He talks about how the Boris Johnson's deal with the EU was a botched deal and that we can be much more intimate. I don't think that's right at all. The UK-EU free trade agreement, or the trade and cooperation agreement, is the most wide-ranging and intimate agreement that the EU has with any non-EU, non-European Economic Area member other than Switzerland. So it's an extremely intimate agreement that we have with them now, and I don't think there's a lot of scope for improving it, really. I think it's just politics, and I don't think it'll go very far.
And Andrew, it's an agreement that comes with many traps and caveats. Michel Barnier, my old adversary, was an expert negotiator. He said repeatedly, we cannot cherry pick. So the notion that we can waltz to Brussels and say, right, we want a better trade agreement without them expecting anything in return is for the birds. And consistently, Andrew, the criteria on the table has been, if you want a better deal with us, you've got to accept freedom of movement.
I 100% agree that the EU will have no interest in cherry picking, and that's always their message. And I also agree that they would want their pound of flesh for any kind of extra. If there were anything that Starmer particularly wanted or felt he needed, then they would be looking at additional migration aspects, probably as the first port of call, probably some additional student visa arrangements or some kind of extra work visa arrangements, something of that sort. Now, it's not as though this situation in the UK is that we're particularly tough on immigration as things stand. So I don't know how enormously different that would make things either, to be honest. But that is, you're quite right, that's the kind of thing that they would try.
Certainly, we need to be keeping an eye on this Brexit watch. We're going to be keeping our beady eye on it here at GB News. Thanks for joining us, Dr. Andrew Lilico.